Hey y'all. Normally this is where I say welcome to another Saturday night Facebook Live, but it's Tuesday night, so I can't say that. So what are we doing on a not Saturday night? Well, if you remember, if you were with me on Saturday, I showed you this really cute gift box for note cards and envelopes with this little sliding drawer. And I had a lot of requests from people who mentioned they don't really use note cards and envelopes, so is there a bigger version? Ta-da! Your wish is my command. So here is one that will easily fit regular size regular size A2 cards and envelopes. And it's deep enough that, as you can see, this one has quite a bit of dimension, and I have quite a few in here that have dimension, and I was still able to get 7 of the A2 size cards and envelopes in here easily. So that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. And I mentioned on Saturday night, no, this is not my original design. I have been following a YouTuber, Angelina, from Intatwyne Designs, and she has some really great 3D projects. So I'm always interested when she comes up with new ones. That's where I went to get the instructions for the note cards and envelopes. And I happened to go back there just to see if she had anything bigger. And sure enough, the next day she had made a larger one. So that's what I wanted to bring to you. Hello, Betty. Hi, Karen. Hello, Jewel. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. So we're going to make it pretty much the same way we made the other one, but obviously our dimensions are going to be different. And what you're seeing here, this is actually just my prototype that I did. It has retired DSP on it. I just wanted to make sure that I had all of the dimensions down correctly. Tonight, we're going to be using the Perrenial Essence DSP, which is so gorgeous. It really is so gorgeous. All right, so let me bring out my project box here, and we'll be using Blushing Bride for our card base. We'll also be using Rococo Rose for our mat. And I made up some of these cute flowers that we'll be able to use as well. But what do you say? They're all curling up instead of down like you normally would do it. Well, let me show you why. This is the paper. Is that not gorgeous? So if you look at the flowers, they are actually have the petals curled up. And I thought using our daisy punch would give me the same effect, and it pretty much has. So I've got 1 large and 2 small. Not sure that we'll use all of them, but I wanted to think ahead. I'll try not to keep you guys too long this evening since it is a work night or a school night. So let me bring in my scoreboard and we'll get the party started. Instead of 2 pieces of cardstock, we will be using 3 pieces because obviously we need that extra dimension. And I have all the dimensions here, and if you follow my YouTube channel, I will have the dimensions listed in the description there. But I'll also give them to you while we're actually doing it tonight. So our first piece of cardstock, you'll need 1 piece that measures 11 inches by 7 3/4. And then we'll have 2 other pieces, and they are the same size. So these are going to be 8 1/4 by 6 3/4. I'm going to start with our large one, the 11 by 7 3/4. And this is actually the part that the drawer slides into. So it's kind of the wrap part, I'm calling it. That one on the long edge, so I've got the 11-inch edge here. We're going to score at 1.5 inches. And then we'll score at 8 1/4 inches. And we've got 1 more score to be done at 9 3/4. Then we're going to rotate this to the right. And we'll need to, on the short end, we're going to score this at 1.5. And it needs to be done on both sides. So I could figure out how much to come over to do it. But you know what? I like to just turn my card around. If I do 1.5 on the other side as well, I know that they're going to match up exactly. All right, so that is our first piece. The next two pieces, as I mentioned, have the exact same dimensions, and they will be scored the exact same way. So on our long edge, which is the 8 1/4, we'll score at 1.5. Then we're going to rotate it so that we have the short end up at the top, and we will score at 4 3/4. And then we have one more score mark, and that's at 6 1/4. So we're going to do that to both pieces. So on our long end, we're doing 1.5. Then we rotate it. And here we're doing, hang on, sorry, oops. Yeah, that's right, 1.5. Here we're doing 4 3/4 and 6 1/4. All right, and that is all our scoring. So we'll put this away and we'll start to fold and burnish. Hope everybody's having a good start to your week. It was a little bit cooler in Atlanta finally. We had some cloud cover and I think it only got up to 90 degrees today. Hooray! All right, that's all folded and burnished, so I'll bring in these other two pieces. And when you're working with a small score line like this, I always like to kind of run my nails where that score is and lift up with my thumbs just to make sure that I don't get a cattywampus. Sometimes when you're working with a thicker cardstock, like all of our dyed cardstock happens to be a really nice weight, it's thicker. So it never hurts to do that before you try and bend it over. All right, so there we have our pieces and parts. Let's bring in our first one and I'll show you the cuts that we need to make. Hi, Brenda. Hey, Kathy. All right, so you'll see that we have, if I do it on the long end, we have one piece here, one score mark, and here we've got two sections. I'm going to start with the two sections because this is the more, not really complicated, but it takes a little more here. So I will cut up this all the way to the second score line. Then I'm going to cut away the bottom rectangle because we don't need it. And I'll do the same over here. So cut up my score line. And I try to cut, pardon me, to the side that, what do I want to say? To cut out the score mark. So I've cut it on the other side of the score mark, you know, to take the bulk out. The brain's just not working today. All right, so that's what it looks like so far, but I want my corners of my flaps to lay nicely and not have too much bulk to them. So yep, you guessed it, we're gonna wedge on each of our flaps. And you'll notice I folded this up out of the way just so I have better access, because it was getting in my way. All right, now on this piece, so we've got these two sections, this is going to fold over to be our reinforced part. So I will go ahead and notch that as well. Take a little wedge out of each side. That way when I do fold it over, it won't be so bulky on the edges. There's one more thing I want to do before I forget. If you remember the drawer from Saturday night, it has a piece of ribbon to help you pull that drawer out. So we need to put in our little hole for that. All I have to do is just fold this over. And I've got, this is the 1-inch punch. If you have a 1/2 inch, that will work just as well. I don't think you want to go any larger than that. And indeed, I'm not going all the way in. I'm just going part way in and roughly centering it. And that will be the part for our ribbon. All right, so let's finish this one up. Go to the other side. Here we only have 2 flaps. So I'll cut up my score marks and then wedge each of those flaps out. All right, and then we'll put this aside. Let's work on the part that goes around our drawer. And the reason we had to do 2 sections is because, well, one of them just wouldn't wrap around it far enough. So we'll be attaching these together. What we're going to do, and this doesn't have very many score marks, but you've got one here and one here at the bottom. So I will cut up the score line there. We don't need this little rectangle here that's at the end, so we're going to cut that off, and I'm also going to notch it. This is where we're going to put our 2 pieces together with this flap. And then I'll also wedge the flap. We're going to do exactly the same thing to this side. So just go up that first score mark, go up the second one. But remember, we're going to cut this flap away, and I'm also going to take a wedge at the same time. Oops, got a little nubby there. Let me get rid of that. And then I'm going to also take a wedge out of this top part. And that is all of our cutting. As you can see, I have very minimal waste from this, which is a good thing since we had to use the better part of 3 pieces of cardstock. So let's put this piece together first. You can use your liquid glue for this. You can use your tear and tape. I'm going to use liquid glue just because sometimes I'm not very good at doing things straight. So putting these together straight, the liquid glue will give me just that little bit extra. All right, so let me just slide these up close to each other. Try to get my score marks at the bottom lined up and the top edges lined up. And then I'm just going to fold this over and press down. And then I'll turn it over just to make sure. Like I said, I've got this little bit of wiggle room, so if I need to move it around a little, I can. But that looks pretty good. I can see one thing, I forgot to notch this flap. Let me just do that real quick. It'll be important in the next step. All right, now we need to do the same thing here. So we need to wrap this around so that we can close it up. Now, you have a choice here. Before you do that, you certainly can lay down your mats and your DSP. I choose to wait until after I've made the box, because if I have, when I'm putting this together, if one of my pieces is a little off, I can adjust for that with my DSP and my matting. But you certainly can do it ahead of time. One of these days I'll get good enough with straight lines that I won't have to put my DSP on later. All right, so with this one, make sure I'm in camera frame. So I put my glue there. I'm going to fold this over, and again, I am matching up my score line with the top edge. And I want to make sure I don't go over. So I did pick it up, just to make sure that it's laying nice and flat. You can even take your bone folder, if I could find mine, there it is, and give it a good press just to make sure. All right, so this basically is the outside part of the box. And where we will fold our flaps in, and this is why I wedged them, because they don't take up a lot of space. Here, your front and your back aren't really as important because you've got seams on both sides because we had to join two pieces together. So either one of them could be your front and your back. So decide which one it is, and then you can put this all together. Just like I did Saturday, you don't have to glue these flaps down. I choose to, because that way there's nothing sticking up on the inside of the box, so my cards won't get hung up in there. If you do that, be sure that you take your bone folder and make a good connection there. All right. Lastly, we'll put on, we will join this with the other flaps to completely close the box. This is also a good time to make sure that everything is flush. And by flush, I mean you're not sticking out way more on one side than the other. So that went together really well. Let's come back to our drawer itself. One thing I didn't do ahead of time was to cut my ribbons. Let me do that real quick. And it only takes about, I usually cut off about 3 inches. Should be more than enough. But you do want to put this or attach this before you glue down your flap. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to stick it up in there. Let's go ahead and use a glue dot here. And that's just to stick the 2 ends of the ribbon together. And then we'll place a glue dot at the back, feed our ribbon through, and I'll pick it up just a little bit to make sure that I've got enough. So that looks about right to me. I can let go of that and glue it down there. Now we're ready to finish this. So how it will go is like this. Our flaps will come up and meet that, and then this will fold over. And I'll just use liquid glue on here as well. Might as well. Although I often will use tear and tape and don't tell anybody, but fuse as well. I still have quite a bit of it. For this part, you will need to hold it a little bit because you want to get those edges to where they'll stick. So all I did was bring the flap in and hold it up and press it down. Same on this one. So I fold this back a little bit, bring it to the inside, and line up these edges right here. It's really important to line them up as smoothly as possible so your box will have an easier time sticking. And plus, when we slide this into the top, it won't catch on anything. So take your time on this part. I'm even going to give it the good old college press here. And now we're ready to glue this final part down. This is our reinforcing flap. It also helps make that drawer, excuse me, nice and sturdy. Because if you're going to have cards in it that have a lot of dimension, like I do, you will want a good sturdy box. All right, so we have put that together. Now the moment of truth, will my drawer fit inside the wrap? And keep in mind that we cut everything almost the same, so we need to just guide it in there. And the more you use this, the easier it will be for it to go in. There we go. Just got to play with it a little. And Linda's not very coordinated tonight. There we go. So we'll slide that in there and just slide it down just like that. And there's our box. All right, now we're ready to decorate it. Before we do though, let me see if anybody has any questions. Because I know I get started and I just keep on nattering. Hello, Danette. Thanks for joining. Hi, Lee. Thanks for sharing, Lee. All right, let's bring in all of our decorating accoutrements. And I will give you all the measurements on this as well. They're pretty straightforward. For the top of the box, I cut a piece of DSP that is 6 3/8 by 4 3/8. Now, when Angelina did it, she actually did everything in quarter measurements, which is probably a lot easier. Your mat is 6 1/2 by 4 1/2. I wanted a much narrower border than I had. I'll show you one I did earlier that just had the 1/4 inches. So, I mean, it looks fine, but with this, I really wanted it to be the star of the show. All right, so my mat, as I mentioned, is 6 1/2 by 4 1/2, and I cut this down to 6 3/8 by 4 3/8. But you certainly could do 6 1/4 by 4 1/4 if you wanted to. Hope I haven't confused anybody. I just absolutely love this paper. Just reminds me of impressionistic paintings. All right, so we will put this down. And as you can see, there is just a small border, but that Rococo Rose is the perfect mat, I think, against our Blushing Bride. So then we can attach this to our top. And this is also great because there's nothing supporting this top on the inside. I mean, the sides and bottom are supported, but by having a matted layer, it really helps with strengthening this part of the box that could be weak. Come on, line up. There we go. So it gives us an extra layer, which I like. Okay, then you'll need 2 pieces of cardstock that measure 6 1/2 by 1 1/4. And on top of those, we'll put cardstock, 2 pieces of cardstock that measure 6 3/8 by 1 1/8. Although certainly, again, you could go with the 6 1/4 by 1 1/4 if you wanted to. Let me just attach these. Now we do have a directional pattern, but for the small pieces, if you look, there's only one of them that really looks like it might have an actual direction to it. But if you are working with directional paper, just take that into account when you get ready to add these to your box. Okay, and then we just need 2 more pieces. Our cardstock mat is 4 1/2 by 1 1/4, and our DSP will measure 4 3/8 by 1 1/8. Or if you like, you could do 4 1/4 by 1 1/4. It would just give you a bigger border of the Rococo Rose or whatever color mat you're using. Oh, and look at me, I'm an idiot. No worries. Let me just stick this down and then I'll put the DSP on top of it. Okay. And this directional, so I'm going to put it with that side going up. And it just really looks nice when you do that. Okay. Get my last one put together here. All right. And I chose this one to be on what I'm calling the front or the drawer pull side because it had a few more flowers on it than the other one did. And I just thought it would look really, really nice. Come on, get down there. I don't want you interfering with my ribbon. All right, let me just glue these on and then we'll finish decorating this. So again, checking to see if I have a directional pattern. And our last piece going on. I may have to put a little more glue on there. Now, if you ever do have kind of buckled areas like this here, I don't know if you can see it or not. Evidently, I did not put my glue all the way to the edge. I would not advise putting your nozzle in there and squirting glue, which is usually what I do, and I end up getting glue all over the place. Instead, I'm going to take a glue dot and see if I can't tack it down that way. Don't want to have glue squishing all over the place. So it's just in this one area. You can even fold up the glue dot if you need to, but I didn't. And there we go. So that is stuck down. Just a little tip and tidbit. All right. So we've got our sliding box here. And like I said, you may need to work it a few times for it to slide in and out evenly. Hopefully I didn't glue anything to it. There we go. So just work with it like that. And let's finish by decorating the top. So I used my daisy punches, both the medium and the large one. I stamped both sizes of daisy in the Blushing Bride, so it would match the box. And now all I have to do is figure out where I'm going to put them. And I also have a small sentiment that I stamped on Whisper White and backed it with more of the Blushing Bride. These are the stitched nested dies that come with Free as a Bird. It's the second to the smallest and the third to the smallest. Now, how do we want our box to orient for doing the top? It certainly could go like this. I, however, think it really looks better going like that. So I'm going to choose to do all of my, adding my little extras up here with it going in a landscape mode. I have my hello, and I think maybe, should we put the daisies there and then do the hello here? That's one way. Or I could just do two of the daisies up here and move my hello over towards the center and put a daisy there. Decisions. You know, I like it both ways, but I really kind of like having my sentiment over here. So could I do that? You know, I actually think I like it better with the two daisies there. It looks just a little bit more symmetrical in my eye. So I'll use a couple of glue dots for these smaller daisies, and then I'm going to prop up on dimensionals the big one. And I'm going to use two, because since the petals are curling up on those smaller ones, I want them to fit underneath this one if at all possible. So I've got two on there, and I want to put that right there. And now see how these will just fit under there nicely. Now I can use the glue dots for that. I'm just going to use one in the center. Should do fine. And you'll notice I even used our little centers. What are they called here? Perrenial Essence Floral Centers. I think they really finish off the flowers so nicely. And since there was yellow in the flowers in the DSP, I just continued that going. Oops, I didn't get that one on very straight. That's better. So I'm just going to tuck that under, come here you, right about there. And then I'm going to prop up my sentiment. All right. Ah, don't stick to me. Better use my reverse tweezers. My fat fingers always get in the way. Okay, pardon my head if it makes an appearance. But I want to try and get that lined up. Looks good. And you certainly could add leaves and, you know, just whatever else you thought would look good. Do we want any, let's see, do we want any other embellishments on it? I think rhinestones are not the right look for that. We could do, nope. If anything, I would probably do pearls. Now you could color the pearls if you want. I think, let me just get these out here. So you can color them with your blends. Petal pink's just not the right look. And I don't have a blushing bright. All I have is Flirty Flamingo. There's a little bit of Flirty Flamingo, it looks like right there. Let's give it a whirl and see what it looks like. I'm just going to color 3 of these. And be sure to get down around the base so you get it all over. Now I use the light Flirty Flamingo, and I think that's going to look just fine. If I can get it up off here. Come here, you. Okay. Stick to me, why don't ya? Here we go. So I think I like one there. And then let's do, I kind of like to do triangles, as you guys know. Let's do one up here, just peeking out there. And then our last one, visualize kind of a triangle. I think the last one I'm going to put right here. All right. There we have it. So that's how you make a slider box that will easily fit tons and tons of cards. I mean, as I showed you, come here, you. There we go. I had a lot in there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, I've got 7, and they all are, none of them are single layer cards. Plus I've got their envelopes as well. So if you didn't have as much layering or as many embellishments, I'll bet you could get up to 10 cards in this. All right, well, that's what I wanted to show you tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to drop me a comment, and I'll be more than happy to get back with you. Let's see, who else joined? Hello, Linda. Measurements, what I usually do, Lynn, is put them on my YouTube. I transfer this video over to YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and just type in Cards by Winnie, W-Y-N-N-I-E, it will take you to my channel, and just click on the video and the measurements will be in the description. Hello, Francis from Brisbane. Hi, Annabelle. Yeah, Danette, I'm almost hoarding some of this DSP. I love it so much. Hello, Cynthia. I'm glad you like the boxes. Hi, Kathy from Colorado. All right, ladies. I will let you go. If you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to drop me a comment and I'll be happy to get back with you. We'll be back on track for our Saturday Anything Goes this Saturday. If you have any special requests for something that you would like for me to demonstrate for you, please leave that as well. I always love getting requests from you all. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day tomorrow. See you Saturday.